Hello, 13th jurors. Thank you for reporting to jury duty. Brandy Churchwell here with episode 2 of The People versus Leticia Stauch. Now, if you missed episode 1, then you missed opening statements for both the prosecution and defense. It was an episode that I really struggled with, and my voice was shaking. There were some tears, some exasperation, a lot of emotion, and a lot of having to delete and re-record while I got my emotions together. So it was a tough one, and I got through it. So thank you to all of y'all who got through it with me. Now, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you'll notice that we're keeping the blue theme going. Everything is going to be blue for Gannon. If you're listening in through the podcast, welcome. I am so excited to be able to offer an audio version of these recaps now through 13th Juror Podcast. So day 2, bring the jury. Let's get started. We are beginning day 2 of The People versus Letecia Stauch for the murder of her 11-year-old stepson, Gannon. Today begins the state's case, and the first witness they call is Gannon's dad, Al. He stands up, he hugs some family members before getting started on what we know will be a difficult experience, and then he takes the stand. Now, in the video footage, you can barely see Leticia. She is kind of slid all the way over to the right of the defense table. She also seems to spend most of the time he's testifying with her head kind of propped in her hands or her fists, where she's seems to be hiding kind of the bottom part of her face, and she seems to be hiding from the cameras. The first question that the DA asks Al when he takes the stand is his relationship to Gannon. He immediately begins to cry, and he said, "That's my boy." The DA leads Al through some background info, including some medical issues that were stemming from Gannon's premature birth, family members, including Gannon's little sister, who, after his passing, told her dad that she was really just going to miss getting on Gannon's nerves. We hear that Al began getting to know Leticia in 2014 while he was separated from his first wife. Once they divorced, he married Leticia in 2015. He gave a brief history of their living arrangements from South Carolina to Alaska to Colorado, and he explained the layout of the home that they lived in there. They're showing pictures of the home in the court, and Al pointed out that there's a lot of Mario stuff because he said that that was one of Gannon's favorite things. He also addressed a picture of the basement where there were burns in the family area that was outside of Gannon's bedroom, possibly, he said, from candles, and he said that those were not there when he had left on January 25th. We found out in opening statements that the reason that Al left from Colorado to go to Oklahoma was for training. He said that while in Oklahoma, after his first class, he went for a run and had gotten back to the hotel room, and he spoke to Leticia. She told him that Gannon hadn't come home yet from his friend's house. Now, this is on January 27th, and she had said that he didn't go to school that day because of stomach issues, which was out of the ordinary, but apparently she let him go to a friend's house, and he had not come back. Now, Al said that to him that didn't make sense. So he called Gannon's friends' parents in the neighborhood, the places that he knew that he hung out, and he was looking for him, but none of them had seen him, so he began to get worried. He called Gannon's mom, Landon, and let her know that something was wrong, and he took an emergency flight back to Colorado. Al flew from Oklahoma, and Leticia picked him up at the airport in Colorado. She didn't drive her own car to pick him up, though. Leticia told him that she drove her car to French Elementary School, where she worked, and then had a coworker drop her off. When she got there, she went and got a rental car. Now, she told Al that the reason for this is because she knew that they were going to be searching for Gannon, and her car was a lease, so it had mileage restrictions, and she didn't want to put miles on it during the search. Now, this stood out to Al as strange, of course, because in a moment like this, who's thinking about mileage on your car? With Gannon missing, Landon came and was going to be staying in their home. That's Gannon's mom. This apparently caused some friction between Al and Leticia, and Al said that Leticia basically took everything and moved herself and her daughter Harley out of the house. Al said that the relationship that he had with Leticia in the beginning was great. He said he was coming out of a divorce, so this was fresh and new and fun. He said after some time together, however, he began to witness a pattern of manipulation from Leticia. The first example he gave is that they were living in South Carolina when he took the job with the National Guard in Alaska. Leticia was not happy about that. And on the day that he was supposed to leave for training, he said that she threw all of his stuff out into the yard. They made the move anyway, and he said that she did not like living in Alaska at all. She filed 2 complaints of sexual harassment. One was based on a comment that Al's captain made, and another based on a conversation that she had with a colonel who spoke to her while she was sitting in her car one day waiting to pick Al up. Now, Al said that these complaints caused issues within his unit, which resulted in his transfer to Colorado. And he feels like this was her manipulating the situation to be able to leave Alaska. He also said that Leticia had told him that she was pregnant with twins, though he said he is, quote, confident that she didn't go to any doctor's appointments. And of course, she never gave birth to twins. That led him to believe that this was also a manipulation in hopes of getting out of Alaska. In 2019, they made the move to Colorado, but the odd behavior didn't stop then. Al said that Leticia filed 2 separate burglary claims after moving there. The first claim involved a hammer hanging from a string in the garage. Leticia said that it was apparently, she thought, a squatter, but Al said that nobody was found and it didn't seem like anything else was found to support that theory. He said in the second claim, she said that someone broke into their home. Al said that there was an ammo can that had been dumped over, like someone had rummaged through it. The mattress was pushed off the box spring and the hamper was dumped over. She also told Al that she fired one of their guns into the window well, but there was also no evidence of that happening. He said that she did finally admit to him that she had made up the burglary claims, and he said that he believes that that was another attempt to manipulate him. He also said that Gannon began counseling because Leticia felt that he was having problems being away from his mom because he was kind of a mama's boy, and she also felt like he was coming after her. She even told him that Gannon had threatened her with a knife. So Al actually told the DA he never saw Gannon make any threats to anyone, knife or no knife. So by this time, it's late 2019. Leticia is working at French Elementary School, but she didn't like it. She had a conflict with the principal and said that she felt like she was more educated than him and should have a higher role than him. Leticia also told Al that a bookshelf had fallen on her head there and that she was injured, but he said that there was no sign of injury, and he felt like this was yet another manipulation tactic to probably get her out of having to work there. Now, after Christmas in 2019, Al said that Leticia took a short trip to Orlando for training because she was going to start working for Spirit Airlines. Not long after that, in January of 2020, right before Gannon's murder, Al's mom was in town for about a week. He said that she stayed at the house during her visit, but he and Leticia were not getting along at that time. He said that he doesn't remember anything else out of the ordinary with her reactions with his mom, but there was some tension between them. When Al was leaving on January 25th, he said that he told Gannon, "You are always going to be in my heart, and I will always be in your heart." And he said that Gannon said, "I love you, Dad. I'm going to watch Pokemon." And he said that that was the last time that he ever got to see his 11-year-old son, Gannon, alive. As Al struggles to control his emotions, DA asks him about a trip that they took to Hawaii. That he talks about them traveling, that she loved to travel and loved Disney. The DA goes over some of the locations that they traveled, both together and separately. He asks if Leticia ever told him about waking up in a tent with cartel members while they were vacationing in Cancun, and he said he never heard that out of her mouth. Al said that Leticia generally liked to live above her means and said that she wanted to be like Kim Kardashian. Now, this got a visible reaction from Leticia, who made a face and looked up at him on the stand. This was kind of the first bigger reaction we've seen from her. She's been kind of hiding most of the day. Now, He asked about a large green suitcase and asked if they used it to travel. Al said that they didn't usually use that one because it was too big, but he said it is the same one that was stored in the storage room and the same one that was found under the bridge. The video that we heard in the opening statements is played again. This is the video that we can hear the audio to. It's the one that made me break down crying, and I know it affected a lot of y'all too, because I heard it from a lot of you on social media and in the comments on the last video. We can only hear the audio, but we hear Gannon crying, and his little voice is shaking as Leticia is telling him that because of the burns, they're going to have to figure out what to sell so they don't get kicked out of the house. He's crying, and he looks to her for motherly nurturing in his painful moment, and she shushes him and continues to speak. The audio is incredibly difficult to listen to. Multiple family members get up and exit the courtroom while it's playing, and Al said that those were the last words that he ever got to hear Gannon speak. On January 27th, Leticia sent Al pictures of Gannon in his bed, but he said that there were things that were off about the pictures, like the bed being moved, a blanket was there that normally wasn't, and a few things like that. He talks about the search for Gannon. He said that there was a sighting of Gannon at a gas station, but he went and looked at the footage and it wasn't him. He said that he watched surveillance videos from the neighbors, but he never saw Gannon leaving the house, like Leticia had said. He said that he drove around to see if he saw him. He was planning on going to Walmart, thinking maybe he's in the video game aisle. But then he decided to drive to French Elementary School, where Leticia's car supposedly was. Her car wasn't there, and Al said that this is the moment that everything kind of switched for him, and he started thinking and feeling like Leticia knows more than what she's telling him. And at that point, he contacted the sheriff's office. The next day, on January 29th, Al said that Leticia began telling him different stories. The first was that she was raped and beaten by a man. Gannon got burned by him, and then she got scared and cleaned up the mess and disposed of everything. Al went to the FBI after this, where he had phone calls with Leticia, and he was directed by the FBI on what to say and what to ask. After lunch, court resumes, and before we listen to a very long, very scattered, very nonsensical phone call between Al and Leticia, they want to clear up a couple of things about the timeline that's been given so far. Now, on the 26th, that was the day that Al said Leticia told him that Gannon, who had stomach problems, had an accident, and she was generally frustrated about having to clean it up. He said that it was early morning hours on the 27th. So later in that night, early the next morning, when Leticia texted him about Gannon's stomach and said that he's still worrying about the burns that were on his arms. And then a few hours later, I think it was around 7 or 8 in the morning, another text saying that Gannon had lit the candle. Now, Al said that this was very strange because this isn't something that Gannon had ever done on his own. So he didn't understand why he would all of a sudden want to go light candles now. Now, the next day, the 28th, is when Leticia and Al went together to meet detectives at Starbucks for an interview. It was shortly after that interview when Al went searching for Gannon and realized that Leticia had lied about her car being at her work, which is when he contacted the sheriff's department and he went back in for another interview by himself. The next day, early morning on the 29th, Leticia began texting Al from the bedroom wanting to talk. He went in there to speak to her, and she seemed frantic, but he said that she wasn't crying. This is when she tells him that the first story about Eduardo, who raped her inside of Gannon's bedroom and then took Gannon. She said that she had given Eduardo a code to get into the garage. He was going to come in and do some work on the carpet. And she said that after the attack, she panicked and got scared and cleaned everything up. Al said that his first impression hearing this was that it was a BS story. So he went and gathered all of the guns and the weapons in the house and secured them, then returned to talk to Leticia, asking her to go over the story again. She told Al this time that there was blood all over the place, both hers and Gannon's, all over his room from the attack, so she cleaned it up. At this point, everything became volatile between them. So she was going to be moving out, and Al had the sheriff's department come monitor things as she and her daughter Harley moved out of the home. After the 31st, once she had moved out, he did not see her again until court. So we begin part 1 of this ridiculous 2-hour phone call that is difficult to follow and consists mostly of Leticia using all of the words available, but giving no actual real information. Now, Al is being guided by the FBI on what to say and what to ask, and he doesn't let on that he doesn't believe her about anything. He does a good job, and he keeps her talking and talking and talking and talking. The call begins with Leticia just complaining about not having her passport or money or cards because everything was taken for the investigation. She then complains to Al that she called the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, and she said that they are ignoring her credible information that she gave them, and instead it's just a, quote, witch hunt for one person. Al asked Leticia to clear up the timeline and what happened when. This is where the call, I wish there were a way for me to make this easier to digest, but it is so scattered. I am going to just give you a very Cliff's Notes version so that you don't have to sit through the 2 hours of it like I did. So she starts with Saturday. She begins by telling a story about how Gannon was taking the trash out. He stepped on some 2x4s in the garage and it ended up cutting his foot. She said, even though you know how I am about my car, she let him sit in the back seat and she bandaged it for him. Now, at one point, Al pointed out that Gannon never goes out the garage to take out the trash. He uses the front door. Leticia gave an excuse that she had bought a bunch of stuff on clearance and that she was unloading things. And I guess that's why, according to her, he went out the garage. Now, next for Saturday is a scattered story about Gannon going to check to see if the gate was locked. And then he got blood on the rug in the garage, so they were going to have to throw that out. Then he went to his room and locked his door. Leticia said that she heard a loud noise down there, so she went to check, but he wouldn't let her in his room because he said he was building something in there. He said his stomach hurt, so she gave him Pediapops and Miralax, and that's really all she said for that Saturday. So Sunday's timeline, according to Leticia, is even more scattered. She said that they were planning on going on a hike, but they saw the news about Kobe Bryant's death. Now, for this death, apparently, she did cry, and Gannon saw her crying on the couch and went and sat with her and talked to her. She said that the conversation that she had with him about this, it was incredibly strange because she said that she told him that Kobe wanted a boy but only had girls, and she let him in on a secret and was telling him about how she had lost a lot of babies. And she's telling him, an 11-year-old, that she's telling him this because he can keep a secret. So Leticia said that they packed to go for 2 hikes. The first was with the dogs and the second was at the Garden of the Gods. She said that a couple of miles into the hike at the Garden of the Gods, Gannon starts to ask her questions if she knows any of his mom's friends from Coastal. He gave her a couple of names, but she didn't know them. She said later on Sunday, Gannon's stomach hurt for most of the evening. He took a bath with bath salts and then went to his room. She said that she went down later to check on him and he was playing with someone named Grayson, is what he said. So neither Leticia nor Al had ever heard of that name. She said that she didn't know if it was an imaginary friend or someone online, and he also mentioned not long after that an Uncle Matt was going to be coming to visit him. She said that she figures he misses people back home, and she said that she just told him to stay off TikTok because he's being silly, and then she went upstairs and left him down there laying on the sofa. So this is where the fire comes in from the video that we heard and from the stories. So this is Leticia's version of what happened. She said sometime after that, she was upstairs and she heard the alarm, which was apparently going off and giving the code for fire. So shortly after that, then the carbon monoxide alarm went off. She said that she grabbed Lena and ran outside to the truck and then ran back inside. She said that when she was back inside, at that point, she realized she forgot Gannon. She tells Al that she's sorry that for a second she didn't remember him, but she said that she ran back downstairs once she did. So Leticia said that there was smoke everywhere and she couldn't get through it. So she went and grabbed a dust mask from the garage and put it over her mouth and then ran back down there. Now, with all of this smoke, she said that Gannon was still asleep and there was fire by him. So she grabbed a cover and jumped on him and just kept jumping. She said that this is how Gannon burned his arms, but that it wasn't bad. It was just like a little blister type burns on both arms. She said that when she ran out of the house, Gannon was running behind her. And she said that she got to the truck with both kids and 2 dogs, drove around the block, and then went back to the house and went back inside. So she told Al that they were all in his truck, and I guess he just didn't have a lot of gas. So they just drove around the block. Once they're back inside, she said that Lena was really freaked out and crying, and she went and slept in her bed. Gannon was upset, crying because he thought he was going to be in trouble for being on the Nintendo Switch, which he wasn't supposed to be on. So now this is where we're getting the story, according to Leticia, one of the stories, according to Leticia, about the fire. So she says that he was grounded from the switch, but he was on it anyway. He had lit a candle that was sitting on like a table or something beside the couch. He panicked when he thought he heard Leticia coming because he thought he was going to get in trouble for being on the switch. When he panicked, he knocked over the candle, which caused the fire. The fire that she said he was asleep during. So that, to me, unless I missed something, doesn't make sense, but this is following her conversation. So she looked at his burns and she put aloe on them when they got back. She called her daughter and told her daughter, "Don't panic when you get here. This is what happened." She said that when Harley got there, that they went in and checked on Gannon again and gave him some water. She said that he wasn't in pain at that time, that he was more scared than anything, which is when she recorded the video. Now, she brings up the video to Alan. She said that when she mentioned the couch, she wasn't saying that he was in trouble or that they had to sell the couch for a bad reason. That her story was that she was saying, we can just sell the couch and get another one. It's not a big deal. Who cares about the fire? Of course, that's not what she says. She says that she's going to have to sell it or figure out what to sell so that the lady doesn't get mad and kick them out of the house. But again, her stories don't line up or make sense. So this is just another discrepancy. Gannon went to bed in Lena's room. She said that he woke up a few times during the night because his stomach was getting worse. So this brings us to Monday, January 27th. Now, remember those little blisters that Gannon had on his arms that Leticia said weren't really that bad? They were just kind of like boils. Well, now the story is that she didn't take him to school on Monday because he peeled those and it caused him to bleed, and he had blood on his wall and on his light switch, and I guess it got pretty bad, so she kept him out of school. Now, she said that she told Gannon that she would rebandage them and she would take him to the hospital later if she had to. She said that the plan Monday, according to her news story, was that they were going to go look at a bike that she was going to possibly buy for Al for Valentine's Day. They were going to have to meet somebody on Craigslist to look at the bike somewhere at a warehouse that she doesn't really know where it's at. While they were out, they were going to go to Play It Again Sports and look for hockey skates and go to the pet store to get stuff for the dogs. They made it to the pet store. It's the one that they went to is on the other end of town. She said that she left Gannon in the car playing the Switch while she went inside. And then she said she went to go meet the guy about the bike, but she felt like it might be sketchy. She didn't know where she was. It was far away. She ended up going the wrong way sometimes, turned around. Her story goes on and on. So she references the police looking for Gannon in this area because she had been driving around there. But she said that they can look all they want to in that area, but they are barking up the wrong tree because she never even got out of the car. So by this time, too much time has passed. So they skip the sports store and they head back towards the house so that they can get Lena. So the judge calls for a break, and all I can really think is thank God, because her rambling is a lot to deal with and a lot to take in. So the jury and everyone else gets settled back in after the break, and audio picks up right where it left off with Leticia rambling on and on and on and on and on and on. So Leticia said that she met a guy on Monday morning working for a home company in the neighborhood and asked him to fix the carpet. She said she gave him the garage code and told him that as payment, just to take some of the money off the counter from her lottery tickets. When Al made a comment about her giving someone access to the house, she said that she didn't think it was a threat. And more importantly, she said she was doing it for Gannon because she didn't want Gannon to be upset about the carpet anymore. That one pissed me off. So she skips forward from carpet guy to Craigslist warehouse guy. She said that she couldn't find the warehouse that they were supposed to be going to look at the bike, and they were running out of time. So they were just going to go back home, pick Lena up, and then go get sushi. So when they got home, Leticia gives a very scattered story about the alarm changing back and forth from armed to stay to whatever based on sensors that did or didn't exist on doors in the garage and in the back. So she tells him to, as she's telling the story, she tells Al to keep that in mind as she continues on and on and on. So according to Leticia, she goes upstairs and she puts on her headphones to do the Peloton. Now, she said Gannon came up shortly after and asked about going to a friend's house, and she said no, so he went back downstairs. She said that she heard a loud noise from downstairs, and Al pointed this out. He asked her how she heard the loud noise if she had her headphones on, and she said that at that point, she was still in pre-workout mode. So I don't know. I don't know if pre-workout mode is just walking around with your headphones turned off, getting yourself pumped up or something. I don't know. It's not something I'm familiar with, but regardless, she said that she heard a loud noise, called for Gannon, then heard another loud noise, and then she goes downstairs. And now this is where things start to get really weird in her story. Okay, so I'm going to give you the shortest version of this that I can, but just know that there are about 1 million scattered and irrelevant details surrounding every single little piece of this story. So things change moment to moment. Very little of it makes sense, but this is the most concise. I could try to boil it down to make it easier to understand without having to listen to all of the words that she spouts off non-stop for 2 hours. So after the second loud noise, Leticia said that she went downstairs. She sees Carpet Guy, who, as it turns out, I guess is actually maybe not Carpet Guy, but she said that they had similarities, kind of looked alike, so she wasn't sure at first. She sees boxes. So to her, that means that he's there to rob them. Something apparently happens, but a lot of it is a blur because according to Leticia, she hit her head on Gannon's table. When that happened, I guess Gannon was going to come help her. And her story is that she saw Gannon jump on not Carpet Guy's back. And then she remembered seeing him laying on the floor crying after that. But she also has a whole different version of the story that she goes right into as well. So now that you mention it, she actually also remembers a very calm conversation between not Carpet Guy and Gannon. She remembers Gannon saying something about Uncle Matt and telling her that he would be back later. So we went from Gannon jumping on not carpet guy's back to Gannon voluntarily leaving with fake uncle guy. So I try to keep up. So Leticia said that between hitting her head and having to fight off not carpet guy, she's struggling at this point. But she said that she's also tired because you know how your body is the first 4 to 5 weeks of being pregnant. At some point, she passes out. This is a mess of a story, and Al asks her why it's different this time and why she didn't say anything about the rape this time. So, of course, this leads her to gaslight him, and she swaps back and forth between yelling at him and crying. How we doing? We keeping track? Let's keep going. All right, so Leticia wakes up from her blackout and said she ran upstairs to Lena, which means, I guess, at some point during this story, Lena had to have gotten home. She tells Lena to go to the mailbox. She said she called her daughter Harley and told Harley to get Lena and take her to Dollar Tree to get carpet spray and powder for the dog smell. And then Leticia said she went back downstairs. Now, according to this version, not carpet guy is still just chilling in Gannon's room, which means he was there when she woke up from her blackout and went upstairs, and he just waited down there with Gannon until she came back. So she said that when she got back down there, he actually had Gannon in his arms. Now, since none of this makes sense, Al again tries to clarify some of this, but clarifying this story is like herding cats because it's just a ton of work. You're running around in circles and you get absolutely zero results. So, she begins to cry. She, poor Leticia, she was just trying to protect everyone. Nobody tried to help her or cared. They all just treated her like a criminal. How awful. Poor Leticia. So she said that at this point, not carpet guy is telling Gannon that he has a new family now. So she tries to grab him and suddenly she's on the floor again. Now that brings us to blackout number 2. She wakes up on Gannon's floor again and she said that he was gone. Now, Leticia told Al that she tried to get in the closet hoping to find something to swing at the guy. But based on her story, I don't know when that was supposed to have happened. It doesn't really fit into anything. So who knows? She said that her gun was in her car, but not carpet guy had Al's gun. But the original story was actually that not carpet guy had her gun. So again, things change moment to moment. Al tried to clear this up. And again, herding cats. So Leticia said that she thought maybe Gannon was hiding when she woke up. And she said now she knows that he left voluntarily with not carpet guy, who, as it turns out, is the same as fake uncle guy. Are you following? So Leticia said this is how she was able to put this all together and solve the mystery. She said that this is the reason why Gannon was going out to the gate and getting the gate key and all of that. She actually said she even tried to tell the sheriff's office to see if there were any cars, out by the house. But sheriff's office won't help her. She said that, she had talked to him earlier about how Uncle Matt was coming to visit. So Leticia has said she believes that all of this happened because he left voluntarily with fake uncle guy. Now, Al tells Leticia that this isn't adding up because Gannon wasn't seen leaving on any of the security cameras, and the key to the gate was still inside the house, and the gun was where it was supposed to be. So he's trying to clarify the details, and she tells him that the investigators just have been barking up the wrong tree. So we are reaching the end of this call, finally, but not without Leticia throwing a few more inconsistencies our way. For example, they went to Petco twice on Monday, which was a fun new fact. Also the whole thing about her cleaning up the bloody scene because she got scared. Now she said she just, changed clothes and stuff. When Al presses her on this, she gets mad and said that she feels like she's on trial. She kind of goes back and forth from crying to yelling at him. But everything that she says with all of this, it's all about her. She's mad that they're after her, and she's mad that nobody believes her, and she wants her family back, yada, 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 yada. He finally tells her this is the fourth version of the story, and it's not adding up, and he just flat out asks her if she killed Gannon. She, said basically everything you'd expect her to say. She gaslights him again. How could you possibly say that? Whatever, whatever. She denies it. He asks her if Harley killed Gannon. And Leticia said, God, no. And actually in the court, you can see she has a visible reaction to that part playing again. He wraps things up. The call that never ends finally ends, and Al takes a stand to answer a couple quick questions to clear things up. And just like that, day 2 finally comes to a close. Now, what jury duty would be complete without a judge and a courtroom? If you're looking to live stream, I definitely recommend trying out Judge Schroeder's favorite live stream, and that's Recovery Addict on YouTube. It's a great community, great chat, and we have a good time. So this is a little screenshot from one of the live chats recently. So give him a follow, give him a subscription if you haven't yet. And also the new podcast is out, 13th Juror Podcast. All of the audio from these videos will be available jury duty episodes, so you can get them anywhere you get your podcast. If you could subscribe, give me some good feedback, but let me know what you think. I appreciate y'all watching. I appreciate y'all listening, and I will see y'all for the next jury duty.